expect his Secretary of State to be effective when he's questioning his intelligence?
Again, he wasn't questioning the Secretary of State's intelligence. He made a joke. Maybe you guys should get a sense of humor and try it sometime. But he simply made a joke. He's been extremely clear time and time again, despite the fact that you guys want to continue to bring this up and create a story. He's got 100% confidence in the Secretary of State. He said it multiple times over the last couple of weeks. And we're trying to move forward and focus on the agenda while you guys want to move forward and talk about who likes who, when that's simply not what we're doing here.
Sarah, one more question. Sarah, one more question.
I'm going to go to Eamon. We're on a tight time here before the president.
The president repeated this claim in the Oval Office today, saying we're the highest tax nation in the world. Why does the president keep saying this? It's not true overall.
We are the highest taxed corporate tax in the developed economy. That's a fact.
But that's not what the president said.
That's what he's talking about. We are the highest corporate taxed country in the developed economies across the globe.
Sarah, so that's accurate, but the president keeps repeating this claim that we're the highest tax nation.
And that's what we are, the highest tax corporate nation. That's
not what he said. He said we're the highest tax nation in the world.
The highest tax corporate nation. It seems pretty consistent to me. Sorry, we're just going to have to really disagree.
I just wanted to tie up a loose end from one of the president's tweets this morning. He said that the NFL is getting massive tax breaks. He called on Congress to change tax law. What specific changes was he calling for? The NFL claims it no longer seeks a tax-exempt status.
Well, while the NFL may have given up its tax-exempt status a few years ago, it's been well documented that billions of taxpayer dollars continue to subsidize the construction and renovation of professional sports stadiums. If this industry is going to use money from American taxpayers to build the very fields they play on, is it really too much to ask that they show respect for the American flag at the beginning of the game?
Why is it appropriate for the Vice President of the United States to spend taxpayer money to go to a football game where he's going to walk out if players take a knee, knowing that he would be taking that action?
I think it's appropriate. The Vice President was invited and he attended that game. And I think it's always appropriate for the leaders of our country to stand up for the national anthem, to stand up for our flag, and to stand up for the men and women who fought and died for it.
Sarah?
Sorry, I'm going to try to cover it.
Just two really quick questions. One, to follow up on your answer, who invited the Vice President to the Football game?
I'm sorry?
Who invited the Vice President?
I believe he was there to present an award. I don't know all the details. I'd encourage you to contact the Vice President's office, but that's my understanding. He was invited to present an award a few weeks ago.
And the second question about the President's tweets about Bob Corker. He said he begged me to endorse him for re-election in Tennessee. Bob Corker's office has vehemently denied that happened, saying that the President actually called him and asked him to reconsider his retirement. Is the President telling the truth about this account?
Yes. Peter.
Sarah?
Back on the football subsidies. The subsidies you're talking about are made by states and local governments. So is the president then supporting federal legislation to take that power out of the hands of state and local governments to subsidize local stadiums if they want to do so?
Yeah, I think he's just making the point that if these individuals are going to be supported in large part and subsidized by taxpayers, that a large percentage and majority of Americans have said that they want NFL players to stand, that he's just drawing that connection between the two. Nothing beyond.
I'm sorry, when he says change the tax law, he doesn't actually mean change the tax law.
I'm saying the federal tax law doesn't apply here, but certainly we know that they receive tax subsidies on a variety of different levels. Jeff?
Sir, how do you think these ongoing fights with Republicans on Capitol Hill help the president's agenda, tax reform first and foremost?
The president's very committed to getting tax reform done. Look, he's calling on Congress to get their job done. They're on another vacation right now. I think that we would all be a lot better off if the Senate would stop taking vacations and start staying here until we actually get some real things accomplished. The president's here and he's committed to working with them to do that.
I think the Senate is working today, though, but how specifically does belittling the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee help with tax reform? Because the president may need his vote on that.
Well, look, and hopefully Senator Corker, who's been somebody who's consistently talked about being a fiscal hawk, was presented with responsible cuts, that he would certainly support those. Matthew.
Thanks, Sarah. Over the weekend, Senator Bob Corker called the White House an adult daycare center, said the president could lead the country into World War III, and said that, quote, "He concerns me, he would have to concern anyone who cares about our nation." What can you tell us a little about the internal reaction to such a senior Republican making comments like that? And is there concern that other top Republicans could make similar comments?
Look, Senator Corker is certainly entitled to his own opinion, but he's not entitled to his own facts. The fact is, this president has been an incredibly strong leader on foreign policy and national security, and he's been a leader on this front. And I think that's been seen and demonstrated time and time again since he took office. And a few examples: over 20 nations to significantly reduce economic and diplomatic ties with North Korea, further isolating them. He's gotten China and Russia to sign on to the toughest UN sanctions against North Korea ever. His new strategy is destroying ISIS. We have tremendous battlefield gains throughout Iraq and Syria. With Europe, he's gotten more NATO allies to pay their fair share, and he's strengthening that alliance. We're also exporting energy like coal and natural gas to Eastern Europe. His vision of principled realism is creating calm around the world and defeating our enemies. Again, Senator Corker may have an opinion, but the facts certainly don't lie. The president's been very successful on this front. John?
Sarah, two questions for you, if I could. First of all, going into the weekend, the president sent his principles for the Dreamers legislation up to Capitol Hill. Included in it was a provision for building the wall. The president had earlier said that he would do the wall at a later time, do the Dreamers first, with some security measures, and then do the wall later. Did he change the goalposts?
No, the president simply stating his priorities for what responsible immigration reform should look like, and that includes those three big priorities. That's what he's promised Congress he would lay out. That's exactly what he did. And I don't think we've been inconsistent on that front, and certainly not unclear. The president has talked about his priorities repeatedly, and in this case over the weekend laid them out in a very detailed fashion.
Is he insistent that the wall be part of any DACA legislation?
Look, I'm not going to stand up here and negotiate from the podium with you guys. That's something for the president and Congress to work out, but we're laying out our priorities. That's exactly what we put in that document, and we're going to work with Congress to try to get the most responsible immigration reform package that we can.
And question two, speaking of goalposts.
That was like 3 questions already.
No, there's a question, follow-up question two.
Good thing he's a reporter and not a math teacher.
I was horrible at that. NFL Commissioner Goodell sent a letter to owners and chief executives of all of the NFL teams saying, like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. It's an important moment in our game. We want to honor our flag and our country, and our fans expect that of us. He's having a meeting next week to discuss all of this. Given the position of the league as articulated there by Commissioner Goodell, what's the White House reaction to what it looks like the NFL is going to do going forward?
I think we would certainly support the NFL coming out and asking players to stand, just as the president has done. We support the national anthem, the flag, and the men and women who fought to defend it. And our position hasn't changed on that front. We're glad to see the NFL taking positive steps in that direction.
And the president in his Forbes interview earlier today said that he's got an economic development bill that he's working on. He said nobody knows anything about it, and that's the first time he was talking about it. It would have some kind of a carrot and stick approach for companies that left the United States. Can you tell us more about what the president plans and when that's going to happen, given that you've got immigration, tax reform, and a whole bunch of other things moving on the Hill?
As I said a few minutes ago, that in addition to the historic tax cuts and regulatory reform, the president's looking at different ways that we can bring jobs and profits back to our shores. That's all I have on that front at this point. Also, the president's getting ready to have an event here shortly, so we'll end with that, but we'll be here the rest of the day to answer your question. Thanks, guys.
Police-involved shootings now. Is the president talking about
these so-called eggheads? And by the way, I guarantee you, my IQ is much higher than theirs, all right? I guarantee I have a vocabulary better than all of them, certainly most of them. I know I have an IQ better than all of them. I know that. Governor Perry, a very nice guy. He made nasty statements about me. And then I challenged his IQ, which wasn't nice to do. And I challenged his glasses. What the hell are you wearing glasses for, all of us? I said the glasses aren't working.
I tell you what, one thing we've learned, we have by far the highest IQ of any cabinet.
I guarantee my IQ is much higher than any of these people. Like my uncle was one of the great professors at MIT. I mean, believe believe me, if it's good genes, we believe in genes, right? We're allowed to say that. So I tweeted that Rick Perry should have to have an IQ test before getting on the debate stage. Hey, sit back. I'll match my IQ. I want to match my IQ with some of those guys, with all of them.